Let's go to Ukraine now, where Sky News understands that a significant Ukrainian attack on the headquarters of Russia's Black Sea Fleet was carried out using British cruise missiles. Russia says a submarine and a warship were damaged in the attack, which happened in occupied Crimea. A Ukrainian and Western source have told Sky News that British Storm Shadow cruise missiles were used. Let's speak to our defence and security analyst, Professor Michael Clark. So, Michael, how significant is this?
Yeah, if Storm Shadow was used, and I'm pretty sure they had to be actually at that range, then that's pretty sophisticated stuff, because it's not easy to get a Storm Shadow attack of 10 missiles simultaneously. 3 of them got through, and they did some significant damage at Sevastopol. 2 ships that we know of were severely damaged. I don't think we'll see those ships again for a few years. One of them is the Minsk, which is a Ropucha-class landing craft, landing ship, and that's some footage of the Minsk badly on fire in the early hours of the morning. And the other one was a ship called the Rostov-on-Don, which is a Kilo-class submarine. First time that a Russian submarine has ever been taken out in this war. And both of them were in, the Minsk was in dry dock, the Rostov-on-Don, the submarine, was effectively in dry dock. They're both there for maintenance. That's the Minsk. In daylight, quite a lot of smoke still around it, emergency vehicles, and you can see it's on its side, it's lying on its side in the dry dock. I mean, those things are 2,500 tons. They don't come off their blocks in a dock unless they've been hit by something pretty big. So I don't think we'll see those again. That's effectively destroyed, I suspect.
Right, so what does this mean more broadly for the security of the Russian Navy?
It's an audacious attack. I mean, remember, the Ukrainians have been opening up the air defence of Crimea for a couple of weeks now, and I think we'll see more of this, because they've got a temporary hole in the air defences before the Russians are able to fill that hole with more S-400 missiles. And they've used that hole a couple of times already. I think they'll use them again, I suspect. And what it does is it moves the whole locus of the Black Sea Fleet into Russia itself. The Russians have already moved most of their stuff out of Sevastopol to Novorossiysk, which is a port, I mean, literally in Russia. It's on the Russian part of the Black Sea. And it makes Sevastopol even more vulnerable for the Russians. And that's what the Ukrainians are trying to do. And, of course, part of the idea of that, I'm sure, is to actually make it a bit easier to get stuff out of Odessa and Chornomorsk, you know, the grain ships that they're trying to move from Odessa, Chornomorsk and the other ports there, down to the Danube, down to the Bosphorus. Now, it won't make those ports risk-free, those routes risk-free, but it reduces the risk if the Russians really can't use Sevastopol, even for submarines, because the only way they had of launching caliber missiles in the western part of the Black Sea was from submarines. And if the submarines are not now safe, then the Russians do have a problem. This won't win the war for the Ukrainians, but it's a strategic benefit to them, and they'll try and use it, I think, further in a couple of weeks.
And just a very quick word on the sort of counter-offensive, which they want to sort of head south, don't they, with their forces? I mean, just a quick word on progress.
Yeah, I mean, the Ukrainians are trying to move southwards. They may not they quite likely won't reach the coast by the autumn, but if they can get within range of Crimea, so that Crimea is in artillery range and it's in missile range of Storm Shadows and Atacms, if the Americans give them Atacms, it'll be within range of them. If they can come to the autumn and say, right, Crimea is now threatened whenever we want to threaten it, that in itself will achieve something for the Ukrainians. Will it be enough to convince the West that this is not a stalemated war? We'll see. Because ultimately, all military victories have to be politically interpreted.
Yeah. OK. Michael, thank you very much indeed.